With the Republican Party split by Teddy Roosevelt's Progressive Party, the Democrats felt that they could win an election for the first time in 16 years. Woodrow Wilson was nominated to represent the Democrats, while Teddy Roosevelt nominated the Progressives. William Jennings Bryan and William Taft nominated the Republican Party. Teddy Roosevelt's New Nationalism and Wilson's New Freedom became the key issues. Roosevelt's New Nationalism stated that the government should control the bad trusts, leaving the good trusts alone and free to operate. Roosevelt also campaigned for female suffrage and a broad program of social welfare. Wilson's New Freedom favored small enterprise, desired to break up all trusts, not just the bad ones, and basically shunned social welfare proposals. Republican William Taft and Teddy Roosevelt tore into each other, as the former friends now ripped every aspect of each other's platforms and personalities. With the Republican split, Woodrow Wilson easily won with 435 electoral votes, while Teddy Roosevelt had 88 and Taft only had 8. Wilson was a sympathizer with the South, a fine public speaker, a sincere and morally appealing politician, and a very intelligent man. Wilson stepped into the presidency already knowing that he was going to tackle the triple wall of privilege: the tariff, the banks, and the trusts. After tackling the triple wall of privilege, Wilson proceeded with further reforms, such as the Federal Farm Loan Act of 1916, which made credit available to farmers at low rates of interest, and the Warehouse Act of 1916, which permitted loans on the security of staple crops. The nation's financial structure, as created under the Civil War National Banking Act, had proven to be very ineffective. In June 1913, Woodrow Wilson appeared before a special joint session of Congress and pleaded for a sweeping reform of the banking system. In the same year, the Clayton Antitrust Act lengthened the Sherman Antitrust Act's list of practices that were objectionable, exempted labor unions from being called trusts, and legalized strikes and peaceful picketing by labor union members. Along with that, the 1916 Adamson Act established an 8-hour workday with overtime pay. Wilson, unlike his two previous predecessors, didn't pursue an aggressive foreign policy. He stopped dollar diplomacy, persuaded Congress to repeal the Panama Canal Tolls Act of 1912, which let American shippers not pay tolls for using the canal, and even led to American bankers pulling out of a six-nation loan to China. When California banned Japanese ownership of land, Wilson sent Secretary of State William Jennings Bryan to plead with legislators, and tensions cooled. Wilson signed the Jones Act in 1916, which granted full territorial status to the Philippines and promised independence as soon as a stable government could be established. In 1914, a Serbian nationalist killed the Austro-Hungarian heir to the throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The domino effect began where Austria declared war on Serbia, which was supported by Russia, who declared war on Austria-Hungary and Germany, which declared war on Russia and France, then invaded neutral Belgium, and pulled Britain into the war and igniting World War I. Just as World War I began, America was in a business recession. American trade was fiercely protested by the Central Powers that were technically free to trade with the U.S., but were prohibited from doing so by the British Navy, which controlled the seas. The Germans and Austro-Hungarians counted on their relatives in America for support, but the U.S. was mostly anti-German from the outset. With the Atlantic Ocean separating the warring Europeans from the U.S., Wilson issued a neutrality proclamation and was promptly wooed by both allies and the German and Austro-Hungarian powers. Germany then announced its use of submarine warfare around the British Isles, warning the U.S. that it would try not to attack neutral ships, but that mistakes would probably occur. Wilson warned that Germany would be held to strict accountability for any attacks on American ships. German subs, or U-boats, sank many ships, including the Lusitania, a British passengers liner that was carrying arms and munitions as well. The attack killed 1,198 people, including 128 Americans. Americans were furious, and Germany finally agreed not to sink unarmed ships without warning. After Germany broke that pledge by sinking the Sussex, it issued the Sussex Pledge, which agreed not to sink passenger ships or merchant vessels without warning, so long as the U.S. could get the British to stop their blockade. In the election of 1916, Republicans chose Charles Evans Hughes to run for president. The Democratic ticket, with Wilson at its head again, went under the slogan, "He kept us out of war," and warned that electing Hughes would be leading America into World War I. Even Wilson knew the dangers of such a slogan, as American neutrality was rapidly sinking and war was appearing to be inevitable. Ironically, Wilson would lead America into the war in 1917. Wilson barely beat Hughes with a vote of 277 to 254, with the final result dependent on results from California. And even though Wilson didn't specifically promise to keep America out of war, enough people felt that he did to vote for him.